I let my elderly neighbor borrow my internet password. A month later, I was investigated for fraudulent activity. She denied everything, but a tech expert traced it all to her devices. When I showed her the evidence, she leaned in and said, "You were too trusting. That's on you." I took her to court, but on the day of the hearing, I walked in to see. I live in Fairview, Oregon. It's quiet here. Not much happens. That's why what happened to me still doesn't feel real. I work from home. I'm in IT, nothing fancy, just remote support for a logistics company based out of Tacoma. I keep to myself mostly. My neighbors are mostly retirees. The kind who mow their lawns at 8 a.m. and collect the local paper like it still matters. I've lived here 5 years. Nothing ever seemed off. That changed because of Beverly. She lives 2 doors down. 70-something, maybe older. Her front porch has one of those old wind chimes and a metal bench with sun-bleached cushions. Everyone thought she was sweet. I did too. She'd wave when I was taking out the trash or walk over to give me leftover muffins. She was one of those, grandma, types you think you can trust. Then one afternoon in February, she came by my house. Knocked gently, hands clasped in front of her like she was embarrassed. "Hey there," she said. "Sorry to bother you, but my internet went out. I just need to pay a couple bills online and confirm a doctor's appointment. Could I maybe borrow your Wi-Fi for a bit?" I didn't think twice. I work in tech, and I've got a strong signal with unlimited data. One device wouldn't matter. I gave her the password. She smiled so big, I remember it now because of how fake it looks in hindsight. "You're a lifesaver," she said. She left, and I went back to work. No big deal. Except she didn't just use it for a day. Or even 2. I started noticing my network slowing down late at night. My smart TV would buffer for no reason. Then I'd get booted off Zoom during meetings. That never used to happen. But I still didn't think anything of it. Then weird things started happening with my finances. First, I got a piece of mail from a credit card company I'd never used before. It was a "thank you for applying" letter, welcoming me and saying my new card would arrive soon. Except I never applied for anything. I tossed it, figured it was junk. Then I got another one, from a totally different bank. Then an email from PayPal, confirming a linked account. Not mine. Then my actual bank froze my checking account. That was the day it hit me. This wasn't a coincidence. I called my bank, thinking it was fraud from some big data breach. The rep started asking questions. Had I given out personal info? Had I used public Wi-Fi? Then he asked, "Has anyone else used your internet connection?" I remembered Beverly. Still, I wanted to believe the best. I told myself she probably just clicked on something bad. Maybe she got a virus. So I went over there and asked politely if she was still using my Wi-Fi. She smiled again and said yes, but only to check Facebook and email. I said that was fine but told her I'd be changing the password soon just for security. She just nodded. No resistance. That should have been the end. It wasn't. A week later, I got a call from a detective. He said I was listed as a potential source in an identity fraud case. Someone had used my IP address to apply for a loan in someone else's name, and they had traced it back to my house. I told him I hadn't done anything. He asked if anyone else had access to my Wi-Fi. I mentioned Beverly. He didn't say much, just thanked me and said they'd look into it. That's when I called my younger brother Eric. He's in cybersecurity. He came over with his laptop and said he could pull the connection logs from my router. What he found made my stomach turn. My network had at least 6 unknown devices connected, phones, laptops, even a smart TV that wasn't mine. One of the devices was using a cloaked MAC address, meaning it was hiding its real identity. That's not something someone does by accident. You have to know what you're doing. He traced several IP logs to online banking portals, fake email accounts, and even loan application sites. It was all coming from Beverly's house. I had him print everything. IP timestamps. Device IDs. All of it. Then I went back to the detective and showed him. He brought in a tech guy from their cyber division who confirmed it. All traffic was routed through my IP, but originated from devices in Beverly's house. She wasn't just using my Wi-Fi, she was using it to commit fraud. I felt sick. I thought about every time I smiled at her, every muffin she brought over. So I confronted her. I showed her the printouts, the logs, the evidence. She didn't even flinch. She looked up at me, took off her sunglasses, leaned in close, and said, "You were too trusting. That's on you." Just like that. No apology. No denial. Just that cold little smile. I went home and called a lawyer. We filed charges: wire fraud, identity theft, unauthorized use of network services. She denied everything when questioned. Said she didn't know anything about tech. Claimed maybe someone hacked her devices too. But the evidence was solid. The police took her laptop and phone. They found more: saved usernames, credit reports, half-filled loan applications in my name and 2 other neighbors' names. She'd been doing this longer than anyone thought. She was charged formally. A court date was set. I was ready. Then, the day of the hearing came. I walked into the courtroom early, holding my folder of evidence. My lawyer met me there. We were ready to present everything. The judge called our case. I stood up. Then Beverly entered, pushing a wheelchair. In it was a pale, frail man with oxygen tubes in his nose. Her husband. She hadn't mentioned him once before. No one even knew he was still alive. She told the court he'd been diagnosed with terminal cancer 2 months ago. That she was desperate. That she tried to take out loans for his treatment, but her own credit was destroyed. That she only used my network to hide what she did out of fear. Then she said, "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just panicked." I looked over at her, and she gave me this tiny nod like we were in on something together. Like she expected me to drop it. But I wasn't going to. And that's when things took another turn. The courtroom was dead quiet after she spoke. The judge looked down at her, then at me. I could feel the room shifting. Some of the people in the back, probably just sitting in on random hearings, started whispering. My lawyer leaned toward me and whispered, "Don't let this throw you off. Stick to the facts." The prosecutor stood up and asked Beverly a simple question. "If you were desperate, why didn't you ask him for help instead of stealing his identity?" She blinked slowly. "Because I was embarrassed," she said. "He's my neighbor. He's always been kind. I didn't want him to know how bad things were." She was playing the sympathy card hard. The husband looked weak in that wheelchair, head bowed, a blanket across his lap. I didn't know if he was really sick or if this was just part of the act. Nobody had ever seen the man in the neighborhood before. Not once. Then the prosecutor asked if she'd applied for loans under my name. She didn't deny it. "I made some bad choices," she said. "But it wasn't to hurt him. I just didn't see another way." I was stunned. She wasn't fighting it. She was trying to spin it. And it was working. The judge's face softened. Even my lawyer looked uneasy. Then it got worse. Her public defender handed over a folder and said, "Your Honor, we'd like to submit a statement from Beverly's oncologist. She's recently been diagnosed with stage 1 ovarian cancer herself. She has been under immense stress, caring for her terminally ill husband, attending treatments, and facing financial collapse." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I leaned over to my lawyer and whispered, "How much of this did they verify?" He whispered back, "I don't know yet. But this could sway the judge. We need to prove intent." I felt trapped. All the evidence pointed to her guilt, but now the courtroom was being flooded with pity. A sick husband. A cancer diagnosis. Desperation. Then the prosecutor did something smart. He called in Detective Lawler, the officer who had worked the digital forensics side of the case. Lawler brought receipts. He had printouts of Beverly's email activity, social media messages, even an Amazon account in my name, ordering gift cards and weird junk. But the worst part? She had also tried to apply for an apartment in Beaverton using my credit. She had filled out the entire rental application under my name, with her own photo as the tenant. That's when the courtroom snapped back to reality. Lawler laid it out in plain English. This wasn't one-time desperation. This was a pattern. A long one. Carefully planned. The judge's tone shifted. Miss Sanford, how do you explain applying for housing under his identity? Beverly opened her mouth. Then closed it. Her lawyer stood up and asked for a recess. Said she was feeling faint. The judge allowed it. Outside the courtroom, I went to the hallway to get some air. That's when someone I didn't recognize approached me. Mid-30s, worn-out hoodie, tired eyes. You're the guy from Fairview Drive? He asked. I nodded slowly. I used to live 2 streets over. Beverly did this to me too. About a year ago. Same thing, credit fraud, opened a card in my name. I couldn't prove it back then. No one believed me because she's, old. My mouth dropped. He handed me a card with his info and said, if they let her walk, you call me. I'll testify. It hit me then, she had done this before. Probably more than once. Back in the courtroom, I handed that card to my lawyer. He told the judge about the new witness. The judge paused and asked to verify the claims. Court was adjourned for the day. As I was walking out, Beverly turned to me again. Her husband wheezing behind her. And she said, you could have just let it go. But now we both suffer. I stared at her. No, I said. Now you face consequences. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. The next week was chaos. My lawyer filed a motion to reopen parts of discovery, citing the new witness, the guy from 2 streets over, name was Travis Harden. Turns out he had a full file of his own, credit card fraud, a utility account opened under his name, and a failed auto loan application he didn't find out about until he tried to buy a car 6 months ago. He had gone to the cops back then, but with no hard proof, and because the IP address led nowhere, the case was closed. Nobody thought to question Beverly. But now, she had a pattern. 2 victims, same neighborhood, same method. The DA jumped on it. They reopened the investigation and found another potential case. An elderly man named Rudy who lived a few houses down from me. He had chalked up his bad credit dip to a clerical error, but when they looked closer, they found a store card opened under his name. Shipping address was Beverly's. They confronted her with the new evidence. She didn't deny it. She said, it was never about money. It was about security. I've lived on this block for 35 years. My social security barely covers my meds. No one helps people like me. She said it like it was some kind of justification. Like being broke gave her the right to steal identities. But it gets worse. 2 nights before the next hearing, I got a phone call. It was from Eric, my tech-savvy brother. He sounded panicked. Hey, he said. You need to check your router logs. Now. I booted up my laptop, opened the interface. There were new devices connected. I had already changed the password. Twice. Somehow, someone had gotten back in. Eric walked me through a deeper check. The router firmware had been tampered with. Somebody had jailbroken the software and installed a backdoor. Only someone who knew exactly what they were doing could have done that. We looked at the timestamps. Most of the activity happened after the first court date. Beverly had either hired someone or had someone helping her. That's when it clicked. Her husband. No one knew where he came from. No one had ever seen him before the court hearing. And something about him in that wheelchair never sat right with me. He looked pale, yeah, but not sick. He didn't say a single word. Just sat there. Eric did a reverse lookup on some of the devices that had accessed my network. One of the MAC addresses was linked to a custom-built laptop used to access encrypted black market forums. The kind used for buying and selling stolen identities. We ran a deeper search using his cybersecurity tools. And that's when we found it. Beverly's husband was not her husband at all. He was a man named Colin Ward, convicted in Arizona for online fraud, released 2 years ago after serving 18 months. He disappeared after that. No current address. No work record. Nothing. We printed everything. I called the DA's office and handed over the report the next morning. They were stunned. Turns out Beverly and Colin had pulled this scam before in other counties: Washington, Idaho, even Nevada. Same pattern. He'd play sick. She'd act desperate. People would feel sorry for her. Then she'd disappear before charges ever stuck. Only this time, she stayed too long. And now we had them both. The DA amended the charges to include conspiracy, ongoing criminal enterprise, and digital intrusion. A warrant went out for Colin's arrest. But he was gone. Packed up and vanished the night we found the new router logs. They caught him 3 days later at a motel in Salem under a fake name. He had 4 laptops, 2 fake passports, and a burner phone. When they brought him in, he denied everything. Said Beverly manipulated him. That was her move too. She told the court he was the mastermind. That she was just a woman trying to care for her dying husband. The two of them turned on each other fast. Their lies collapsed. But even then, Beverly tried to twist the knife one last time. She filed a civil counterclaim against me. Claimed I defamed her by accusing her publicly, said I caused her emotional distress, and that I should have taken it up privately, instead of involving the police. I couldn't believe it. My lawyer just laughed and said, "Good. That'll blow back on her." And it did. The judge allowed the civil motion to proceed alongside the criminal charges. That meant we'd be going to court again. And this time, I wasn't just after justice. I wanted everything. The civil trial was set for mid-August, 3 months after the criminal case started moving forward. I'd never imagined myself spending that much time in court, but after everything Beverly did, and tried to get away with, I was more than ready. My lawyer and I built the case from the ground up. Not just about the fraud, but about what it did to my life. The frozen bank accounts, the embarrassment, the months I spent untangling my credit, the loss of a job promotion because I failed a background check during the fraud investigation. I had proof of all of it. Beverly showed up to court looking different. Hair dyed. No wheelchair. No husband in sight. She sat there in a beige cardigan like she was someone's confused aunt instead of someone who had built a quiet, destructive life on lies. Her defense? She said she'd been mentally unstable. Claimed stress and age clouded her judgment. Said I'd harassed her by showing up at her door with intimidating papers, and that I ruined her peace and reputation on the block. She even had 2 neighbors testify for her, Marge and Philip, who had known her for over 20 years. They both looked uncomfortable the entire time. When it was my turn, I spoke plainly. No legal words. Just the truth. She didn't just make a mistake. She built a trap. I was her cover. She used my network, my name, my peace of mind, and when she got caught, she smiled and said it was my fault for trusting her. This wasn't stress. This was strategy. Then I played the security footage. I'd installed cameras after the first court date, once I realized someone had breached my router again. One clip showed Beverly, days after she claimed to be too ill to walk, sneaking onto my porch at midnight with a phone in her hand, standing close to the window. My Wi-Fi router sits just inside. She was trying to reconnect. That crushed her case. The jury didn't take long. They awarded me $82,000 in damages, lost wages, legal fees, emotional distress, and credit recovery costs. The judge also slapped her with a court order to stay 500 feet away from me and banned her from owning or using any connected devices without supervision. But that was just the civil case. The real blow came in the criminal courtroom a week later. Colin, her fake husband, took a plea deal. In exchange for a lighter sentence, he handed over everything: chat logs, email threads, digital bank receipts. He admitted that he and Beverly met on a forum where scammers traded tips and stolen info. She wasn't just helping him, she was teaching him. She had a whole manual saved on her laptop, typed in clean, simple instructions. How to hide behind a good neighbor. That was the title of the document. Step by step on how to pick targets, avoid detection, cover tracks using someone else's IP address, and build sympathy with fake illness stories. My name was mentioned directly in her examples. In the end, the judge gave her 9 years. Colin got 5. No parole for either. When they read the sentence, Beverly didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She looked at me as she was led away, and for the first time, I saw something new in her face. Fear. Not because she was going to prison. Because her scam was done. A week later, her house was put up for auction. I drove past it once. Empty porch, wind chimes gone, no sound. The same neighbors who used to wave at her avoided the place now like it was cursed. But I wasn't done yet. Remember those 2 neighbors, Marge and Philip, who testified for her? They'd known she was doing this for a while. Not in detail, but enough to suspect it. They admitted under pressure that Beverly had paid off one of Marge's medical bills last year, in cash. Philip had let her borrow his laptop twice, but never asked why. He just didn't want to get involved. They weren't charged, but they lost the neighborhood's respect overnight. I don't talk to them anymore. Neither does anyone else. As for me, I changed every password. Upgraded my network. Filed the paperwork to clear my credit. I still get the occasional headache from it all. Still check my credit report weekly. Still flinch a little when someone rings my doorbell. But I also did something else. I took the $82,000 I won in the civil case and launched a website, neighborhoodshealed.org. My brother helped me build it. It teaches people how to secure their home networks, spot digital scams, and recognize early signs of neighbor fraud. I get emails every day from people who say, "I wish I'd found this sooner." So in a way, Beverly gave me something after all. Not forgiveness. Not closure. But purpose. And now, every time someone reads my story, every time a person changes their Wi-Fi password or locks down their router, Beverly loses a little more power. She tried to steal my life. I made sure she'd never touch another.